Everything is still going all right. Okay, it ultimately really comes down to this. Now, what we can start doing at this stage is... Well, honestly, I could probably bump up the priority on a lot of this now. Sure, why not? Time for us to get a lot of this done. We have been waiting over long. Make all of the things done. All of them. These ones especially. Those ones should be 8 naturally. Right, okay, so next I verily must... Oh, actually, let me build an auto dispenser. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, that built first, actually. Once these are swept out of the way, we will replace them with... Buddy buds down here. Hopefully a pip can plant buddy buds. If a pip won't plant them because they're not like a briar blossom or something like that, that'll be a bit of a shame. But I would very much like buddy buds to be our nature reserve. Oh wait, nature reserve. How big does it need to be? This might be too small. 32 tiles. Okay, just. Oh no! I've been building things on 9s this whole time. Let me pop that down. Yeah, we need 4 plants, yeah. 4 tiles. 1, 2. 1, 2. I've got to make the place to plant the tiles first. Shelley, this feels like it could be an unmanned test. Maybe Shelley thought that. Maybe. Look, I honestly really just enjoy the look of the various gases around here. But most of this place is now oxygen, actually. Let me turn that on. Like, a very great deal of this base, let's actually zoom all the way out, is extremely breathable. That used to not be the case. That used to very much not be the case. For the longest time. I think we've done well to fill the world with oxygen like this. Personally. It's a bit less so down here, but it's still fine. Very not down here, though. Yeah, oxygen is now included. It is true. We've gone to great efforts to make sure that oxygen is included. One could say not occluded, but then they would just be stealing the pun out of the achievement. That just really wouldn't sit well. How unoriginal. Why are you not happy? 30 degrees? Is it too hot in here? Yeah, it is. Damn it. Okay, let's have a look at this. 41, 28. It's temperature of the 23, going out at 27. 25, coming back in at 26. Curious. generating the heat then? It is quite warm out there to be certain, but still a little bit surprised. Alright. Firstly then, how much ceramic have I got? I've got a decent amount of ceramic. Let's start by replacing what we've got. Make more ceramic as we get the chance. Let's get this drawn in. Now this, actually, you know what? We don't even need that. Let's dial that back a bit. We don't even need that bit. Oh, maybe they'll be able to reach it, I don't know. But the vast majority in here can be now stripped down. Let's make sure I'm only breaking down buildings, though. That should cool down soon enough. Is the oxygen coming in a bit too hot, perhaps? Have a look at that. A little bit. I'm not going to lie, the oxygen there is a little bit warm. Petroleum is 60 degrees, 57 there, 53 there. Okay. I could build a little aquatuna setup with a steam turbine above it, just to cool down the oxygen for this area. But that would take time away from finishing this area, and that's something I'm going to be doing over here anyway. So I'm actually going to not worry about that one for now. We'll focus on other things. Plenty of stuff that I can work on over here instead. Getting a lot more work done now. That's fantastic. Really happy with this. Oh, so let's go and check on our rocket. Is it back yet? No, it's not. Oh, space mission complete. Apparently it is. What fantastic timing I have! Some fullerene. Fullerene, yes, we've got some fullerene. Fantastic. Tiny amount, but it's fine. Yeah, data disk, we did. We also got a blender. How marvelous. Oh dear. Things aren't pumping and they're out of power. Oh, that's rough. Okay, get yourself out. Go. And allow the gases to escape. Perhaps I should make a point of, again, having a little bit of a buffer. A little bit too tight for me to do that now, but that would have been a wise move. Doing amazingly with the power, if I'm honest. Despite having so much more power now than we've had before. Well, it feels like we've got more potential for it, but it's not. And perhaps I'm just using it up in more places than I was previously. These are now starting to chill this area at least, and starting to cool it down very slightly compared to areas nearby. Mostly not, though. New principles. Let's go and have a look what we got. We have got nothing I want. Not going to take the water. We've got too much water, frankly. Used to be where half of our problems are stemming from. This store. Hello, mate. How are you doing? Aavak, as much as I want to see your water reservoir boil, have you considered just moving your aqua tuners into your industrial sauna? I have. And the reason I haven't, it's a silly and stubborn reason, is because I really, really like the idea of having a central coolant system. If you've been around to a couple of the previous streams of Oni, where I've discussed what I was imagining, was having a central kind of coolant system that would run kind of like a backbone, just a pipe up and down from left to right, or vertically, maybe, I don't know. And then at discrete points, there would be a valve and a reservoir and a thermosensor that would accept coolant off the main pipe if it needed to fill up. And it would fill up its coolant, and then it would effectively then be an isolated system. It would then shut off access to more coolant once it had reached a certain threshold, and it would just run that coolant inside its own system. For example, let's say the living quarters. The living quarters would have a separate cooling system, and it would just run in there over and over and over until, and it would basically be an SR latch. So, you know, let's say the system was dry to begin with. It would allow fresh coolant in. Let's say that this coolant is like, I don't know, maybe there would be some sort of lower level. So if the coolant were any colder than 10 degrees, it wouldn't accept it. But at 10 degrees, it would let it in. It would fill itself up with 10-degree coolant. It would then cycle that coolant until that coolant got to 25 degrees, let's say. At that point, it would push it would vent the coolant back onto the main line of coolant and would start accepting fresh 10-degree coolant until it had equalized again to the correct volume of coolant in that isolated system, and then would isolate itself. That 25-degree coolant or whatever would go back onto the main line, would cycle through it. Maybe you would get peeled off by another area which has different temperature tolerances. For example, the animals might want very different temperature coolant. They would have a higher minimum threshold, or maybe a much lower one, who knows. And the idea was that the aqua tuners would only run to pull the coolant down to like a base level, and then would just allow that to run through several reservoirs. So there was this stock of coolant that would just move up and down this pipe until somewhere requested some and also released some into the pipe, which would heat up the base level of the coolant. But the aqua tuners would only kick in every now and then. I really wanted to design that, and that's why I haven't moved it. Is because I keep kind of hanging on to the idea that you know, in a little bit I'm gonna have time. In a little bit, I'll have time to do that. I'll definitely do that eventually. I'm starting to wonder about that at this point, if I'm honest with you. But that is the reason why I haven't already done it. It did occur to me that I could at some point, but I really like Oni as a game. This is my philosophy when playing Oni. I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to hopelessly over-engineer things. I just want to see if I can make stuff work. Whenever I had like Technic, I'm not sure if it's branded the same way in other places, but like Technic Lego sets. I never built a car that could cross different types of terrain because I needed a Lego car that could, you know, carry its own bridge and build it and take it up behind itself, or if it approached certain things, could kind of rotate out different wheels because I needed it to. I just wanted to. I just wanted to say, well, I've got this idea for a thing. I don't know if it's possible. This feels like the best reason to try anything, frankly. It is branded that in the US, though. I forget how to spell it. But yeah, this in a way for me is like a sand game, you know? I don't know if you've seen those pixel games. Well, basically what Noita is effectively based on. Or perhaps heavily inspired by. I just like to build interesting systems and see how they interact. Conway's Game of Life as well. I would spend hours and hours playing around with Conway's Game of Life. Just slightly adjusting the rules by which life existed in that simulation. I spent an enormous amount of time doing that when I should have been doing other things in my degree. My professors did not mind, though. As long as I handed in my assignments, they kind of, I honestly think, I think at least two of my professors really took a shine to me because I liked doing stuff like that, because I think they liked doing stuff like that. And so they were like, haha, yes, this is marvelous. They called me mad, but clearly I was on the right track. Look, the new generation are doing it as well. This validates all of the crazy stuff I did before. I don't think that was necessarily the right thing for me, but nevertheless. There's folks who play Oni purely in creative mode, just to mess around with complex engineering. No, exactly. That's also how I play Oni. May all the dupes who've sacrificed their lives for it rest in peace. Lemon cakes? Exactly. We need to build a plaque. You know, even when we've gotten to the temporal tear, I'm going to build a monument to commemorate all of the Belials who died in our glorious quest for ever more over-engineered systems. That reminds me of how I play Factorio. I hate the idea of resources lying on belts unused, so I dream of automating the bus to only let... See, Troll Potato, this is exactly it. Exactly how I play it. I don't... You know, like my system for only... Like, you could easily have... I can't remember which series I did it in, but I had belts that only created ammo if there was ammo needed at some part of the factory. Like, I wanted to make a system where it was automated to the point that the factory basically, like, certain parts would request things, and then, like, a whole wing of the factory that had lain dormant for you know, in-game many years. And long ago, we built the bullet farm, but the bullet farm has fallen fallow, for there were no more bullets needed. But recently a biter infestation has occurred, and the walls have once again heard the sound of gunfire and the spewing flame from my flame turrets. And then all of a sudden this wing just comes to life again because there's finally a need for what it produces. But otherwise it was just sad. Yes, of course, you can play it where you just build the bullets until no more bullets can fit on the belt. But why, though? When you could instead imagine yourself in some sort of automated dystopia, where the machines long have forgotten why they are fighting the war that they're fighting, only that they were designed to fight it, and fight it they shall. Honestly, the highest grade of Rube Goldberg device are the ones that actually do a thing rather than just loop. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, that's how I play. That's how I play Factorio as well. It's like in most of my series, in my more recent one, though I haven't uploaded to it for so long. But I loved the fact that they've recently added into the base game a way for a train to understand that X amount of trains are on a way to a station. Because prior to that, because I don't like using mods that add in AI to the game. Because I've got everything I need for it. I don't need a mod to do it. I've got combinators. I can make the AI work just with a sufficiently vast field of combinators. So, you know, my solution to not having a native smart train was to make smart tracks. Every train was exactly the same. The tracks would check what the train was carrying and check down the line if a certain line, like if a station needed something, it would send a signal saying, I need this thing. And every junction that train could approach would check what the train was carrying and check if any of the lines leading off from it were requesting it. And if one was, it would send the train in that direction. And so on and so forth. And I had to have all kinds of ways of accepting signals and pulsing to send trains out. A lot of that work is now not necessary, and there's a little part of me that's a bit saddened by how simple it is. But at the same time, I do appreciate that, you know, there are new over-engineered things that I can do that wouldn't have been possible before. So, you just got to look for your fun. Combinators are Turing complete, yes. Gimifier. See, I can totally appreciate that approach. It's not for me, but I can actually look at someone who's made a base like that and appreciate it for what it is. Yeah, logistics. I just use 1,000,000 boxes. I don't believe in ones and zeros. There is only a full box of bullets. There's only a full box of bullets in my world. Not a full box, a partially full box, an empty box, so on and so forth. Blah blah blah. No, I completely get where you're coming from with that. And it's one of the things that I like about the game is that everyone can play it in their own way. And I think that's really, really, really important. Right, okay, so that's all set up. That's all doing its own thing. At this point... Oh, okay, I need these ones done. Once they're done, this layer is complete. And I can seal it off, basically. So I'm actually going to bump that up to an 8. Let's get that all done. I do wonder if belt and splitters in Factorio can be used to build state machines that's Turing complete. That's actually a good question. That's a very good question, yeah. Let's get these done. Thank you. Now, one way of managing a kind of livable base like this isn't using a spine, like a central coolant flow, sadly. It's instead to very simply have the coolant be a part of the base. The coolant system is built into the base from the beginning to manage the temperature within a very fine point. So for that, we would need a room somewhere around here, like external to the base, but close enough to it. Probably either a vault full of liquids that would be able to deal with the temperatures involved. Honestly, for a base like this, water would do. But we could use polluted water if we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of extra buffer, or anything really. Or alternatively, metal tiles. Or anything you wanted. The idea would be... I'm going to slow it down so I can mock it up for you. Let's just say I've got a steam engine here. Maybe the steam engine's above it. I don't know. Probably a steam engine there. Aqua tuner in here. Then this whole area down here is a solid block of metal, or it's a vault of water. And the idea with that is that this will be my temperature buffer. The aqua tuner is responsible for cooling only this. That's the only part of anything that the aqua tuner cools. And, it vents, it uses the steam engine to control its own heat. Anything coming into the base, be it oxygen pumps, be it water, clean water, moves through this block and cools itself to the temperature that I've set the Oh, no, I know it's vents. Don't worry. I've paused it for that reason. It moves through to and cools itself to, or heats itself to the temperature that this body of water is at, or whatever I've got it at. And that way, I don't need active cooling pipes all the way through the base. Anything coming into it is my active cooling. So the air coming in is cooling the base. The air or warming it up, as the case may be. And we just vent out anything else. I mean, the oxygen is getting used up, so on and so forth. So that's what we'll be looking at doing. Now, in terms of the power, I can probably fit this entire thing in here fairly comfortably. I'm not going to need much. Like, one steam engine is all I'm going to need for this. Realistically, I can't see myself needing more. I will need to isolate this building and the steam engine from the temperature of the rest of the base. But this, the reservoir won't need that. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and grab this. I'm going to need this whole area isolated, and the same up and down as well. Across. But I don't realistically need to isolate it from out here any more than I already am. Generally speaking, that won't be necessary. So there we go. So cancel this one as well. There's a mod for Factorio that allows a combinator to place down blueprints, so you could go one further with the bullet farm. The guns are requesting ammo, so the factory builds the bullet farm to meet the request, and then is decommissioned. Yes, there are mods, and honestly, again, I don't like using mods. I like to be able to do it within the game, except where that is strictly not a function of the game. For example, I quite like the idea of electronic vehicles, and having like charging stations, because it made sense. I modded that in whenever I was playing modded Factorio. But yeah, there are mods that allow like recursive laying of blueprints, and I really like those. If I were to be playing a modded Factorio game, I would probably install such mods. Comfortably, happily do so. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's move this out one more. I think that's all I need for the power. Yeah. That gives me a nice room. So I'll build the stairs out on this side. There we go. And then we'll get rid of the ones in here. But yeah, I would absolutely install such a mod. And yeah, like you said, you know, the factory kind of makes requests and starts building itself over time. The moment you get to the whole robots, it's now a von Neumann machine. It's glorious. It starts to expand out. It looks for sites where it can expand mining. Finds a biter nest too close by, so it deploys fire bases. Starts building extra stations to summon artillery trains. All of that sort of stuff. Amazing. Though honestly, the logistics in summoning artillery trains, I would probably make that out of combinators rather than any kind of mod, because that is possible within the game. But the recursive deployment of blueprints, that isn't a function. So I would happily mod that in. But honestly, and this is where I go with that sort of stuff in Factorio, is that there are games that offer that kind of gameplay where that's already the game. like actual AI games. And pop, perfect. Yeah, gotcha. Let's get rid of you. I play Screeps a lot, more or less, so that I have that kind of gameplay. In terms of, for those of you who know of Screeps, in terms of Screep, the type of Screeps player I am full automation. So I don't like having to hard code any behavior into my Screeps AI. I aim to code in the capacity to observe and record environmental data and then make decisions based on that data. Rather than me saying, okay, so you've just started the game, make this type of creep, gather this energy, and then start doing this and start doing that. I prefer to be, okay, so the AI first run, it really doesn't have much of an input, but it is the room that it's in is losing control points, so that is now something it needs to address. The room it's in, it's losing control of, so it defines a creep to try and build that. It manufactures the creep out of the storage of energy you start the game with, and then discovers that actually I'm out of power, and I don't have an economy that I'm not gathering power, so I need to repurpose that creep to gather energy instead. And then, it starts to build up this chain of things that it needs to do, all off only the variables that it could sense in its environment. And it just builds up that activity. Everything should be automated. It should plan the base not by me laying down a template for it, but it should plan the best place to put things based on the environment that it's in. How fast, what's the best path to certain areas? Try not to block those off. Try always to have things within range of roads. Try to maximize energy flow through the room. Also try to maximize potential defensive points, so on and so forth. That's the kind of thing that I enjoy doing. Screeps. I've been meaning to give that game a try, but never gotten around to it. I can only offer very, very positive things to say about that game. I am hopelessly biased. Starting to nod off. I'll catch the thoughts later once they're on YouTube. Have fun, Aavak and Daplings. Take care, Jajara. Most popular mods for Factorio are all about adding layers of complexity and interesting decisions, options, rather than making things simpler. Yes. Yeah, very much so. I do like that eventually, in Oni, everything becomes about heat management. I mean, that's kind of true of the universe as a whole, really, when you think about it. Everything eventually becomes about heat management. Though, in the wider universal sense, the efforts to not lose it. How is Screeps? I've been meaning to check it out. I adore it. I really, really enjoy it. I play in a very casual way, though. I don't get sweaty about whether my bot gets wiped out because, it gets embroiled in a war or anything like that. Half the time it's my bot's fault because it decided it wants something that someone else has. It's like, well, you brought this on yourself. Whenever my bot gets wiped, I'm like, okay, well, this is basically just an opportunity for me to start again. Why would I be upset about getting to refine the system and see how my bot can do from the beginning again? There's one guy who did something pretty wildly different in Vanilla Factorio. Everything other than raw materials that could be put on a belt was put on a belt. One belt, in a loop, with complex wiring controlling how much of everything was on that one belt to ensure it would never lock up. Actually, yeah, I may have seen that Reddit post, or was it a YouTube series? I can't remember. But it was really, really... And it wasn't just brute forcing. It wasn't just, throw everything on a belt and have enough splitters and... Eventually, the things that need to be where they are will eventually get where they are. It was actually managed by the factory. It was really, really clever. A machine that builds itself and harvests materials to build more of itself. That's how you create great goo. Yes, I know. Glorious, isn't it? I write code for a living. It's hard to come home and want to write code for entertainment, though I still do from time to time. Yeah, I mean, I can completely understand that. I can completely understand that. I used to code for a living, but I don't know. I just oh my, how? Oh right, that's not a that's not a comma. How have I got 0.25391 joya seeds though? But I thought that was saying. Well, first and foremost, the fact that the separator was in the wrong place. But never mind. My initial reaction was, Jesus, how have I got so many? I see now that that wasn't what it was saying. But for a moment... So, what was the bot game? Screeps. As a mechanical engineer, everything is about heat management. Yeah, it absolutely is. I don't really care for complexity. I care about games like Cyberpunk or Original Sin, where I can kill things. Well, no, that's absolutely absolutely valid, and I really enjoy those games for that same reason. You know, not everything needs to be about coding or AI. It's just, you know, it's hard for me to not enjoy those games, and you know, I was studying to be to have that as my job moving forward. Let's go with Mirth Leafs. Also, more diamond. Done. Yep. And yep. Perfect. Okay, coming along. Getting things done. They are going to be way too hot for it to start with, and that's just the way it's going to be. Kenshi is a great game, but the automation is really scuffed. When I first played Kenshi, I was really drawn into the automation in the game. The reality is, though, it's not quite as deep or complex, honestly, as many people credit it with. Sadly, because it's a really, really fantastic game. I'm very much hopeful that there'll be a lot more automation in Kenshi 2. But I was not really bowled over by the automation in Kenshi, let's put it that way. Right, I need more gold. I would like 50 gold. Then I need more copper. I would like 50 copper as well. Then I would like one thermium. Well, actually, let me check. Let me go back and check how much niobium we've got. No. I made a mistake. How much? We got loads of niobium. I really don't need it. That's fine. Yeah, I adore Divinity Original Sin. It's a fantastic, fantastic game. And Lady Sheila and I will probably be getting back to our multiplayer game of that, as it happens. I was talking to her about that. Sadly, right before the before she got ill while playing 7 Days, because we'd been playing 7 Days recently and both enjoying it so much. I floated the idea of getting back to our Divinity save, and she was really all for it. And then, obviously, boom. So that had to go on the back burner for a little bit, but we'll be getting back to that. Trillion bars. I own all 6 current Divinity games. Sheilab has played more of them than I have. Lemon Cakes, thank you ever so much for the 5 gift subs. You've been incredibly generous tonight. Thank you so much for the support. I really, really couldn't express how much that means to me. Thank you. I would kind of like to see a Screeps stream. I tend to not get a game unless I can see some gameplay, and most videos I saw on quick search on YouTube tend to be tutorials. Okay. Watching a game of Screeps is slow, because the game is all hosted, well, at least if you're playing on like the main MMORPG world, where ticks are like one game tick will happen every 3 or 4 seconds, depending on the server you're on. So watching anything happen is slow. That being said, like watching someone play Screeps is watching them code the bot. Probably in the test, in the simulation realm, where they can just run it at like, you know, however many ticks per second that their computer can handle, because it's not part of the main server. Now, if I were to play it, I would be writing code, testing it, and once I liked what I had, I would deploy it. But we wouldn't really see much happening on the main game, because that would just take time. Screeps is the sort of game where you write some code, or if you're me, you decide what you're going to do. You spend about 4 or 5 hours doing it. You check that it doesn't immediately break, you know, as insofar as you can, you know, make sure that nothing obviously bad is happening, like by trying to run it and it just exploding. But assuming that that is okay, go to bed, get up, find out if it's still not broken. If it isn't, good job. If it has broken, well, you were prepared for that eventuality. Find out how it broke, fix it. That's typically the kind of way I roll around with that. So I'm not so sure how much of a Screeps stream would be fun to watch, because it basically would just be a tutorial. I'd be talking about why I'm coding it in this way, what's happening, but you wouldn't really get much visual feedback of what I'd done. That being said, if you are interested in seeing a very who was it that did a tutorial on it? A chap by the name of the Pinion, the PI1. I can't remember. He did a really good ultra know nothing series. The only thing that was required to be able to follow along with his tutorial series, where he was playing the game, so you saw things happening, was the most basic level of understanding of Java. Like some tutorials are like, look, if you don't understand this and this concept, go somewhere else. But he was like, look, do you understand the base? Like, do you know how to set up your environment yourself? Because if you don't, then this probably isn't the right tutorial for you. Here are all these resources. But if you can at least get that far, well, you're good. Let's go. And he literally walks through it, and it's really simple. He talks about why he's doing things the way he's doing, and he kind of just builds up from the very beginning through a couple of episodes. I would actually recommend it if you're interested in seeing what Screeps is. That's a pretty solid option. Tish Pilot, thank you very much, Zakar. Yes. He's got a. I think his avatar was like. Honestly, I think it was funny enough, I think it was an avatar of a character from a Klei game. Something about like a gun, like a detective with a gun that could reprogram stuff or something like that. I can't remember. Oh man, Java had hard nope here. Once I switched to scale, never want to go back. I mean, you know. you could write several books on why X, Y, or Z language isn't worth the effort of trying to do it. It's just a programming game, you know, and it's going to be written in some language. Odds are there are no games written in Scale. That's the reality of it. It's about how easy it is to how many people you can hit with, you know, how accessible a game is with that sort of thing. I know a lot of people have a couple of scripts that allow them to write in other codes. In fact, you can, and I've seen some people do this, though not that many, which does lead me to wonder how easy it is to do. But you can write code in a different language and then just use Web3 to pull it in. So you could compile your code in like C Sharp or something like that, and then import it into the through bytecode. Though you would have a hell of a time doing any kind of debugging within the game's IDE if you did that. You would be completely locked out in that regard.